So, what is CommVault? You may be asking yourself, why do I even click on this to learn about it? What is it exactly, right? Well, CommVault is a enterprise backup and recovery solution used by a lot of companies. So the history goes is CommVault. It was formed in '88, right? Development group of Bell Labs. It it I think it prides itself in not actually having bought a lot of companies, and so they just developed their own kind of their own software, which is notable. They're the type of company that you don't really hear about them because they do everything backups, right? So like Microsoft, Apple, a couple of different companies use them. Actually, a lot more than that. Let's see who else. Adobe uses them. British Telecom uses them. Columbia Sportswear, Australian government. Let's see, IMG, a hosting company. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, nice. Levi, that's a designer clothes. Who else? Rackspace. You guys have probably heard of Rackspace. They use them as well. So I know Microsoft uses them, and as well as Apple as well. So these are just a few of the companies that actually use CommVault. There's something like 50,000 customers or something like that. I think they have worldwide. Their stock price is about $70, $67 a share, something like that. A lot of the events they attend, AWS, VMworld, which is just went on, I believe, Microsoft Ignite, HPE, Cisco Live. So that's got to tell you that they have a lot of companies that they're actually providing service for. So once you have an account at ma.commvault.com, you can even actually go to commvault.com, do a free trial, and then actually download version 10 if you wanted to. So you just go to cloud.commvault.com once you have that set up, and then you just scroll down until you see version 10. We're going to click on version 10. So um, let's click on version 10, Service Pack 15. Once you do that, it opens up and you have all of these media kits you can download, right? So, for instance, let's download 64 Windows 64. We'll download that one. Let's also download Linux 8664. Now we could click on download and you download everything, but that's fairly large, and we don't really want to do all that, for our demo. You always see this name on a company's website, Gartner. It's like I guess like a who's who basically of these technologies. So CommVault's actually in the enterprise information archiving, and they're among the top vendors. So you have other companies like Barracuda, Bloomberg, Google, Microsoft, Veritas, and also for critical compatibilities. So this is the big one, right? The data center backup and recovery, right? And so these are the big players. These are billion-dollar companies. EMC was just bought out by Dell, or what's approved or something like that. So Avamar, HPE, IBM. You've heard of these names before. Commvault's right there. See the difference between Commvault and other companies? They don't have a software. I'm sorry, they don't have a storage device. They have to get theirs from like NetApp, or it's built in. They just sell software. They just sell backup and replication, backup and recovery, backup and archiving software. That's it. They don't sell anything else. Whereas like EMC will sell you the Avamar, and they'll sell you the actual spinning disk. The actual hard drive. Commvault doesn't do that. So Commvault's just software for right now. Commvault's only built on the CommServe itself, actually, the brains of the whole deal. That's only built on Windows. Now I've talked to the Commvault people, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna get it on Linux, so we compete with like Net Backup or Veritas, if you will. Um, So they're missing that market. Have who have data centers, they don't want to have to reboot a Windows box, and that's like every week, right? So you can imagine you having to rebuild, or rather reboot the Windows server every week or so for patches or whatever. Now Linux, of course, Linux has patches as well, but there's not as many actually as Windows. So that's really the benefit of Linux. But CommVault is not there yet, according to what I know anyway, about getting their stuff on Linux. But I think it's coming eventually. It'll happen. So, but CommVault, like I said, CommVault, the CommServe goes on a Windows server like 2012 or 2016 or 2008. I don't really think they use 2008 anymore, but you know, and the back end is actually SQL or MySQL or MongoDB. So that's the actual database on CommServe. So one of their competitors are Veeam. They do mostly virtual machine backups. They're the same thing. They're a Windows box as well, according to what I know now, and they're missing out the market, because they don't have a Linux box, as I hear. Now NetBackup has a Linux box, and they're Veritas, of course. I will say something about CommVault. Their tech support is really good. When you call them up, um, follow the sun, they call it, right? So you might call somebody in the States, like New Jersey, they're out of New Jersey, and then when you call them after hours, let's say, you'll get somebody in the UK, and then after that, you'll call them after so many hours there, you'll get somebody in Australia, and they just follow the case. You got a case open, they'll follow the sun, basically. That's the benefit of it, right? You can talk to somebody. Their logs, of course, they're going to ask for logs. Their logs are smaller. They're easy to read because they're in Windows. I will say the difference between like CommVault and other companies, like for instance Veeam. Um, the thing that Veeam lacks is the call me back. Give me a number to call me back on. I don't want to. I want somebody actual that's working my case, not a pool of people. And the other thing is Veeam's logs are huge. They're like 4 gig, right? Whereas CommVault's, they're smaller. They're 100 meg or whatever. Um, Another competitor of CommVault is Veritas, or NetBackup, if you will. Um, Again, CommVault, outshines them because their tech support isn't that good. Truth be told, you call them up, and when you do get somebody, it's good. But after hours, they have. If you're not a certain type of customer, they're going to take your call. It's not 24/7 for certain folks, and um, you know. Sometimes you put a case online that tech doesn't get it. Takes a couple hours, or like a day or so. I've had good and bad both experiences with this, but all in all, Commvault, the tech support's a lot better. The good thing about all these software, by the way, is they all have to work the same way. Let me show you a screenshot of what Commvault looks like, and then what NetBackup looks like. So here's a picture of the CommVault, the CommServe, right? And let me show you a picture of the NetBackup one. You see it's very similar, right? And this is a Java. Both use Java, right? Let me show you one of Veeam. That's Veeam right there. So all three look pretty much the same in some regard, right? Left hand side, in the middle there, all the data. So again, like Commvault doesn't sell, they don't make hardware, right? They make software. When they sell you a product or an appliance, if you will, it usually has like NetApp, spinning disk or drives, right? On usually, or Dell, something like that. Um, NetBackup's the same way. NetBackup will sell you an appliance. Actually, it's a Linux appliance, and it usually looks like this, or this, or even this. The 5230s, I think it is. Yeah. So this is an actual. That's the difference between the two companies, right? They'll actually sell you a product. It's got a bunch of memory in it. It's got like some spinning disk as well in there, and there's a software, of course, but it's usually Linux. A lot of times it's Linux. They don't sell you Windows because they know customers. That's a market although they do have, there is a version of NetBackup in Windows, but they just don't. Typically, they give a data center like an appliance here. I'm not certain if Veeam has hardware that I know about that they sell, but I do know they sell software. So I just Googled lists of backup software, and this just breaks down free and open source software. So there's a lot of backup software out there, by the way, and all of them have to pretty much work the same way. So if you know one, it's very easy to learn another one. The one I didn't mention was Networker. That's made by EMC Networker, and a lot of times, so you have a so you have to sometimes make the distinction between a backup software, right? Backup and recovery, right? And then a storage piece of hardware or software, right? Two different things. So backup and recovery is backing up the data, backing up the files or whatever, right? The storage is where you put it at. So you might have a backup solution like CommVault, for instance, and the storage could be data domain, it could be NetApp, um, it could be a Hitachi, Nutanix, AWS, could be any of those really. And the good thing about all that is they're pretty much vendor neutral. So you can mix and match your different storage vendors. You don't like one, you'll change them out. And same thing with backup. A lot of them work where you can, like I've seen some jobs out there where they're asking for, hey, do you know how to, do you know Net Backup? Do you know CommVault? Yes. So we'll say like, well, we're migrating from CommVault to Net Backup, or vice versa, Net Backup to CommVault, and whatever the decision, whoever the management or the CIO, whoever made the decision, they just want to do that. And so it's, you know, if you know one, it's easy to learn the other ones. So learning just CommVault is good because it'll help you in learning other backup and recovery software as well. So we just scroll down a little bit here, proprietary, and look at all these versions of software that are, versions for Windows, Mac, Linux, right? And just go down the list. There's CommVault right there, and you'll see a bunch here, right? And don't, you know, this has probably been updated a while ago. I don't know if this is very current or not, but I don't see Veeam in here anywhere. Actually, nope, I don't see Veeam there. Yeah, so just learning like, basically more than one of these, just installing it on your, development or whatever it is environment, you're going to see the difference. You're going to see the similarities also. Like, what is that like? And you're going to feel really like you know it, right? And that's it right there. The more you do it, the more you know it. So the starting wage or the average wage is like 63,000 for like a backup admin, um, and the high end is like 160. That'd be nice, really. Actually, those are probably like, high end enterprise level. Not really sure. I'd assume that's like maybe 100,000 users, maybe that you're managing, or even more than that. So I assume that's what that is. And the good thing about CommVault is again, any really backup software, really, you just touch every environment. You touch networking, you touch DBAs, you're involved in that, the virtual team, the Linux team, the Unix team, even the programmers. You'll talk to them. All those people, your application developers, your SharePoint application, your whoever, yeah, your HR, a lot of those different departments in a company, you talk to them because you're backing up their data essentially, so you're really important. So it's very good to have that back and forth communication between those different departments. So if I were to just do like Zippia.com, right? Where do you want to work at? Let's say New York, right? It's obviously not 69,000. It's a lot more than that. But what does a backup admin do? It basically just monitors backups, make sure they work. Um, just imagine your job as a backup admin is so important, right? That you know that's real data. That's people's data that you're backing up. And if you you check something, or you delete something, you yourself purge the file, or you purge the file. The data's lost. So in some cases, you should be really careful what you do, and that's what this whole course is kind of gearing towards. Whereas just learn the technology, become familiar with it, have your own lab, have your own environment. That way you can, just break it on your lab and not have to break it in production. I think I heard something where there's two types. Everybody has, the company will say everybody has a development environment, right, in your company, and then some companies also have a production environment, meaning, you know, your people at work will break sometimes accidentally or whatever, will use production environments to do development, because a lot of companies don't have, they don't have a test environment a lot of times. You'd think they'd have a giant, test environment. They don't. They really don't. Sometimes they expect the people to know what they're doing, but they can't know everything, right, about the software. There's some things they want to try, but they don't want to try it on the actual environment. And so a lot of times they'll say, okay, they'll have to take it upon themselves to go home and learn. But I'll tell you, if you're the type of person that goes home and learns, obviously you're watching this course, so you're that type of individual. You go home and you're self-teaching yourself about that technology, CommVault for instance, and it'll teach you other things about backup environment and how that works, and just give you little insights into that type of technology, and then you're just going to separate yourself from your competition 100%. Every hour you do at home and working on your craft, that's going to yield results in the future. You get it, you start applying, you start learning a technology, learn about this, learn about NAS, learn about SAN, right? All that. Just really understand it. Take it upon yourself to learn it, and then just apply for the next job. But keep applying because you're going to learn. Oh, okay, that's the skill I need. That's what they're looking for. Okay, so I'm going to learn that, and then I'm going to go to the interview again, and then you never know. You might go into, because the transferable skills in CommVault are, transferable from, CommVault to NetBackup to Veeam to Avamar to Networker to NetApp in some cases. A lot of the technology, it's transferable, right? The same concept. So if you don't know exactly CommVault, but you understand it, from a perspective, and then you walk in, oh, I can do that because it's very similar to CommVault. You might be asking yourself, like, why does a company, how much do they usually spend, right, for CommVault? You might ask yourself that. Really depends on the software license, but I can tell you probably like what, five or six. No, probably more like 60,000 a year roughly for license in some case, but that gets you like premier support, or good support rather, 24/7 support. Um, it's not hardware, it's just software, but it's peace of mind a lot of times. So if you're a company and you say, okay, I have, 2 employees, or let's say 5 employees, actually, for that matter, 5 employees. Let's say you have, like, again, let's say 5 employees, 50,000 each employee. It's probably more. Let's actually bump it up because that's kind of low. Let's actually say 70,000 per employee, right? And the CommVault license, of course, you have all the hardware. That's all there, right? But you have 5 employees. That's what, you might have what, 2 people working. So 2 and 2. So that's 4 folks, and then the 5. So you might have a leader, and you have 4 employees, basically, right? Working for the, well, leader works for those 4 people actually. So let's just break that down. That's 12 hours a day, right? So 2 shifts, right? So you got one person 12 hours, another person 12 hours, 24/7 coverage, times. So this is what it looks like, right? If you have 4 people and you have a leader, that leader works a normal 40-hour work week, or he or she splits the shifts, right? But so how it would work is this way: you have 5 employees. So one person on, you call it like front end days, right? And then back end days. So, and then front end nights, back end nights, right? So basically, your employees, or the employees, right, work 3 12s, and they're off for 4 12s. So 3 12-hour days. They're off for 4 consecutive days. That's awesome, right? And then um, the other employee works 4 12-hour days, and they're off for three 12-hour days, or 3 days actually. And so what happens is you might split that. So you might have 3 on 4 off, 4 on 3 off. So every what week, every other week, you get a 4 hour 4 day, um, 4 days off basically, right? Look at that, the benefit. Look at all you have to do is that work an extra 4 hours a day for 3 days or 4 days for that matter. You have to pay people more, like per hour, a little bit, right? Because you have to pay overtime. But that's fantastic. The benefit from that is you're always going to have an employee who is constantly, um, there's what they call it, pass down, or the information sharing, because you have to really rely on the next person to do whatever it is. So that schedule works great, by the way. If companies actually did that more often, they'd have a better workforce. Meaning 4 days a week. Wow, I'm off 4 days consecutive. Awesome. I don't have to, uh, you know, I don't have to worry about anything. I have vacation. Awesome. So you can do that 4 day vacation day. You're going to see a lot less vacation days too, by the way, if you do that as a company. But anyway, so going back to our scenario here. So 5 employees, that's a little bit more actually because you're going to have to pay them overtime. So let's go another 450,000. Let's just say another 100,000 in overtime, right? And CommVault license about 60,000 a year, roughly, right? So all in all, you're looking at what, 510,000, something like that, um, as your cost so far. So now let's think about this. If you don't have a backup solution, how much does it cost you per hour? Is it $100? Is it $1? Is it $1,000 per hour? If you can't back up, if you can't restore a person's data, a SQL database, you have a customer that you're backing up their data and you can't restore it, or if you can restore it but you can't restore it in point in time, meaning you can restore it every day, maybe they want it back a couple hours ago, or maybe you can only restore it. You take a backup every other day. Normal people don't do that, but let's assume you did. Um, how much is that worth to you as a company? How much is it worth for you not to be able to restore? I know Carnival Cruise Lines, right? You've heard of Carnival Cruise Lines? Oh, I'm sorry, Norwegian Cruise Lines. They use Veeam actually on their cruise ship, right? Look at that. I mean, they use Veeam for their backup and restore. And that's just an example, right? That's just one application, but CommVault is there as well. But that's just one example of a piece of software that is like CommVault that does amazing things. And that's on a ship. Imagine that, where you're on a ship and it's floating around and you're having to back up and restore files. Also, what is your company's reputation worth if you don't have a backup solution? Most companies have a backup solution. That's just, there's some kind of governance, meaning there's some sort of like thing that they have to have. They have to keep their financial data or something like that for how long. And we're not talking about mom and pop, by the way. And when I talk about these are enterprise licensed, by the way. No mom and pop is going to be able to do, $60,000 and hire five employees, right? We're talking about enterprise level companies. What we're talking about, who make million, 2 million a year, something like that, profit a lot of times. That's who we're talking about. The mom and pops, they're usually going to be like a Western Digital hard drive and maybe our Robocopy in Microsoft, or rsync in Linux. That's what their solution is, right? And maybe they do a cloud solution. They're backing up to the cloud, meaning the AWS cloud, right? But they don't do probably a lot of data backing up, right? And so their cost is, okay, I'm just going to back up the cloud, no big deal. But if you're a company where you have your own servers and you have all the infrastructure anyway, this is the solution for you. So thanks a lot for viewing this tutorial on CommVault.